Hello, YouTube family. I've been praying for you, and I've asked the Lord what was on His heart and mind for you. I think probably right now what we're all dealing with is the blood red moon is coming up, and we haven't been raptured yet. And I think we're all wondering, is this going to happen sooner than later? And I know that there's disappointment and struggles of faith and that kind of thing. I know that the enemy is using struggles with our faith right now to discourage us and to cause us to either give up on it and lose our faith or be shamed by the ridicule of others that's saying, "Where's your God? Where's the promise of His coming?" So don't let that happen. Don't be affected by ridicule and doubt and unbelief. The Lord is coming. And at any minute, He doesn't know the day or the hour either. So let's just stand with Him in that. After all, we are His bride, and He needs to be comforted too. We don't want to give way to discouragement. And the Lord well knows the danger of that happening. So when I came into prayer this evening, the first thing that He did was speak to me about that very subject. So He began, "I know the disappointment you feel. Oh, I know only too well the heaviness of your hearts. But you must be patient. You stopped living for yourselves when you gave me your lives. So you see now the suffering of my delayed coming is being used to call in other souls who are on the verge of responding. You are not only my brides, but my servants as well. And as such, every single act of obedience on your parts is used for the building up and conversion necessary to build my kingdom. That is why you so often state, 'Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.' This is your banner, your mandate. All that you do fits into this job description." And I asked the Lord, I said, "Please, Lord, is there something that you can say to our YouTube family that will bring them some peace?" And He replied, "I do. Stop thinking about yourself and join with me in the harvest. What have you done to make my kingdom come? What are you doing now in this hour? I have given you more time. Are you going to waste it? You know what so many do not know. What are you doing to get the word out? You see, I didn't give you more time to sit around with your bags packed. Some of you are not ready. You are too tied up in your own lives and your own comforts. And the last thing on your mind is the hard work of witnessing to the truth. I say to you, buy of me silver and gold refined that will not corrupt. Bring me souls. Enough with this nonsense that others are not the bride. This is my decision alone to make. I did not call you to judge, but to love. That means think the best, expect the best, and make every effort for every confused human being I died to redeem. In my eyes, you are not ready if you are not reaching out to others and you are still self-preoccupied. Put self away and join with me in the harvest. The fields are ripe for the picking. Where are my harvesters? Sitting under their own apple tree watching for the clouds to part? No, I say to you, work while there is yet time. Do not waste what has been given to you. Cease from your self-centered activities and go out of yourself to reach others. That indeed is what my bride is doing right now. Consider, she is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, and she longs, as I do, for souls to be brought into the kingdom. She is doing everything in her power to accomplish this at the last hour. I have spread the grace far and wide to motivate my people into ascending into the bridal chamber with me, where they will be fully equipped through intimacy to go out and bring the lost into my banquet. If you are not working for me in this hour, you are standing before me blind and naked. Rise up and take on your master's business. Bring forth fruit worthy of my bride. And while you are doing this, I will see to it that you grow into the fullness of who I've called you to be as my spouse. My promise to you is life eternal in the choicest lands of heaven, the sweetest intimacy possible to a created soul. Don't let me down in this hour. Rise up, harness yourself to my carriage, for my yoke is easy, my burden is light, and I will make joyful for you the act of going out and gathering to me my bride. End of message. Now that's the main message that I wanted to share with you, but when prayer time started and the Lord signaled to me that he wanted to speak to me, he did bring some things up. He said, "My love, be patient with me," speaking to me because, we're all waiting for the rapture. I'm waiting too. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at the eastern sky today. My husband and I have been watching the eastern sky. There are so many on the internet that don't want to hear you, Lord, that you're not coming right now. They don't want to hear that. And the Lord answered me and said, while there is yet work to do, while there is yet hope, and those on the verge of conversion, well, I cannot say my Father is heartless enough to pull the plug, but it is true he will not wait forever. Remember, God is not like man. God is patient, not anything like you at all. Why? Because we can see what you cannot see. We can see what we will do with that child sold into the sex trade, that oil spill, that volcano. We have ways of turning everything bad to good, ways that you will not fathom until heaven. The Lord continued, do you remember the story of the little boy in Vietnam and the one in New York? Yes, Lord, I do. Okay, well, I'll take a break here for my conversation with the Lord and fill you in on that. We had some people that lived out in the country, and the man was a serious alcoholic, and he had been in the Vietnam War. And he told me that one of the reasons he drinks is to kill the pain of the things that he did in the war and the things that he saw. And one of the things that he saw was a woman. He was at the gate, and he was guarding the gate, and a woman came with a little boy who had a basket of food for the mess hall. And the mother and the child came through the gate. He let them in. And the mother told the little boy, you go ahead into the mess hall, take it to them. And when the little boy started getting close to the mess hall, she turned and ran the other direction. I think you can probably guess what happened. A bomb exploded and killed many of the men in the mess hall, and of course the little boy. And he saw this, and it was imprinted on his mind for his entire life since it happened, and it caused him so much pain that he did choose to numb the pain with alcohol. Well, I sought the Lord about this, and I said, Lord, really, what can we do for this man? How can I help him? And he told me a story, and this is the story. There's a little boy in New York, about 8 years old. The little boy is gone into Central Park to go down to the little ponds in Central Park. The Lord comes up to him and talks to him for a few minutes. His parents are drug addicts. He doesn't know who his father is. His mother is a serious drug addict. He's neglected. He's underfed. He's abused. And why would anyone put him into a life like this? Why was he born into this life? It was terrible. And there's so much of that right now all over the world with the proliferation of drugs and addictions. It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. That's the story about the little boy, what his condition was, and he'd go to Central Park just to get some relief from terrible environment, drugs, violence, gangs. So he'd go to Central Park, and he was down by the pond, and the Lord came to see him, and they talked. Well, after a while, he turned, and this is something I'm seeing in the Spirit. The Lord is showing me this story. After a while, he turned, and he walked back to start to go home. And when he was crossing the street, a big truck went out of control and hit him and killed him. He died right on the spot. And the Lord turned to me in this vision, and he said, you see, there are some souls that know what their end is going to be before they even come to earth, and they make an agreement with me. And I tell them what their reward will be. They'll be in heaven with me, and they take on this assignment. Now that may seem a little far-fetched to you, and I'm sorry I can't explain God's ways to you, but I do believe that was the Lord. It had a tremendous impact on the alcoholic man that I told it to. The Lord knew in advance when that little boy was born that he was going to be used as a living bomb, tragically. So, going back to our conversation, the Lord is speaking to me, do you remember the story of the little boy in Vietnam and in New York? And I said, yes, Lord. He replied, well, you see, there are many saintly souls come into this world right now that signed up for suffering just to be saved and bring more into the kingdom. Very saintly souls that would rather die young than be corrupted and go to hell. Souls that love me with all their little hearts and know the treachery of having a human body on the earth. These souls I invite and use for work no one else wants to do, dying in tsunamis, plagues, and hunger. These souls call out to humanity to reach beyond their selfish boundaries and give. The poor sanctify the rich. You know the saying, the rich man's money gives him no peace, and how true that is, unless he has become my steward, and hand in hand works with me to bless others. So you see, everyone has a purpose in my kingdom. Not one goes without their reward. Each fulfills their destiny, just as you right now are fulfilling yours. And I'd like to expound on this just a little bit. My understanding, and this is something that came to me probably a good 20 or 30 years ago, as far as the Lord speaking to my heart and observing things, He receives the suffering of our human condition, the things that we have to suffer on this earth, as if we were carrying a cross. Like Simon, who was given Jesus' cross to carry, we continue not only to do as Jesus did and to pray, but also to carry a cross. Some of us have a cross of illness, and I know lots of people out there who would argue that with me, but I'd ask you to consider the souls that do get prayer and don't get healed. In fact, I've done a teaching on that, why didn't I get healed, that I think might really be helpful to understand. So the Lord uses the suffering of these souls, and we don't know anything about the destiny of a soul or how a soul comes into being, other than I think we kind of all get the impression or the idea that a soul is born out from God. And Jesse Duplantis talks about that in his visions of heaven, how God the Father would put his hand into his vest and pull out his soul to give to an angel to be born into a body. He did this many times while Jesse Duplantis was in his presence. So whether we agree or not, there's suffering in the world. It comes about by Satan, but you know, the Lord uses everything and turns it to good. That becomes a lever to release graces in the lives of people, just like fasting releases graces or prepares us for graces to clarify our mind or to accomplish some spiritual work. So the Lord uses every form of suffering, and some of these souls have chosen and know this life that they're going to lead, know that it's miserable, and know that it's short and brief, but they also know their reward, and they're not lost. I've always wondered, and the Lord caught my thought, it just flashed through my mind as we were talking, He said, "You have often asked me, how is it possible that a soul taken from the very bosom of God can possibly be evil? I tell each and every candidate, I'm taking a tremendous risk here. I'm endowing you with free will. It will either bring you back to me or condemn you to hell forever." They start pure, but entering into the bloodline and culture has a powerful effect on their DNA. I said to the Lord in that moment, I thought DNA is what it is and didn't change. He corrected me. "No," he said, "DNA can be corrupted by many things, especially the electrical impulses that control the body. So repeated acts of violence can affect future generations, not only because they are demonic infestations, but because the DNA has been altered. The older the genes, the more affected the DNA becomes. That is why very often I give them a DNA transplant. I infuse fresh, uncorrupted DNA into your bodies to help turn you from sin, discouragement, and failure, such as I did with you through the prophet that visited that church." So anyway, that is the end of the message. And be encouraged, YouTube family. The Lord is coming. Don't let anyone tell you anything other than that. But understand there is a reason why he said in the scriptures, the groom was delayed. So he has been delayed. And not he doesn't even know the hour. So he has been delayed. But we must be patient and continue to watch for him and keep the oil in our lamps burning. And I believe this oil can be likened very much to the good works and the work that he's given us to do under the anointing. So let's keep our lamps lit and not become weary in well-doing. God bless you.